Session. This will be rather short, but we're embarking on a journey through a new course for you, and if you're in the actual program, and it's a chance for you to understand how to enhance learning with technology. In particular, you'll move into the development stage of an instructional design model where you're actually developing an event, an e-learning event, but you'll also be exploring trends and issues in terms of instructional design so that your design can be on the cutting edge, because we're in a graduate program. You're becoming not only a practitioner, but a knowledge leader in the field. So you want to be looking at the current trends and anticipating future trends in your work. And again, the design process is very complex, and IDT is often seen as a technological field, and the focus being on technology. But in terms of the instructional design process, the design is as important as the technology. So we're going to try to keep that balance there, but use technology because we want to move into e-learning. That's where the market is right now. That's where the job growth potential is, and career enhancement. So your project should be an e-learning experience for this course. But again, what's most important is that you nail down a very simple instructional goal and just a few at most instructional objectives. Again, we'll be continuing to discuss issues and trends in our field as we go through the course. A lot of the assignments will have you continue on what you've done in the past to explore these issues. In particular, your event may be an isolated Captivate project, but you may also consider adopting an LMS for the event, which you wouldn't have to develop for this course. You would develop a Captivate program for your project, but you might consider how you might integrate an LMS into your learning event. And I think a very good one is Blue Quill. I've used many, and I wrote articles about what's being used out there in our country and around the world, and I think Blue Quill is one of my favorites. Most people are enamored by Blackboard, but it depends on how Blackboard is retrofitted. In some cases, such as I teach for Walden University, there's not much I can do to make my Blackboard shell more usable for students because I'm locked out as an instructor, and the university isn't always receptive to suggestions about many universities aren't receptive to suggestions about usability, which to me is the most important aspect of a course. And that brings me to, again, if you've heard me speak about this, me meeting the needs of adult learners through a more asynchronistic model. You don't need to drive somewhere on Monday evening and park in a parking lot and walk into a building and sit in a classroom. And you don't need me to read you the syllabus, read to you all of the assignments. You can do that on your own. You're an adult learner. You can do it on your own time. You can listen to this presentation on your own time and then post questions or comments. Is it less personal? Yes. but is it appropriate for us in this modern day where we're so pulled in so many directions? Asynchronous models and patterns are appropriate for adult learners in most situations, and we can also build in the personal part by using some of the principles of instructional design, and also by making things less formal and more focused and personal in our interactions. For instance, our discussion posts, our emails to each other, and these presentations that we make. And you'll be in this program, you'll be making presentations, and many of you have, and I think it's a great way to collaborate without having to have a real meeting. You can put something together, as I am doing in PowerPoint. I typically use live meeting, but they changed to Zoom in our course, and because I haven't used Zoom before and I'm running out of time today, I just dropped back to PowerPoint, and I'm going to post this on YouTube. And you've done that with your presentations, and I viewed every one of them that were posted, and the quality was excellent. Overall, I was impressed with the way folks used the graphics and avoided overuse of text. So I was checking the excellent box as I went through these, and the only issue that arose for me for some of them was the volume on the recording, because of course I have a laptop and the speakers aren't that great, so if I have to plug my headset in, that sometimes tells me that perhaps you could have made it a little louder. I always like to make mine loud, because you can always turn down the sound on your device just by a few clicks, but there's a limit to how far you can turn it up. So as you look through the course, you'll put together what's needs to be happening, and don't worry if you're a little bit confused as you start reading things. Get through the entire weeks. Go to each week, look at what's due that week, look at the course outcomes. They're specific, and that's what will tell you what you're going to gain from this course. And then you have a text, and I'm not sure if there's a digital version of the text. I know there's a Kindle version available, but sometimes a library will provide an older version of the text for you, and that's perfectly fine, although you have to be careful about using those, because sometimes the chapters don't line up. Sometimes they move chapters around, but if you want to use the third edition of the text, it wouldn't be a problem for me. And again, we will be doing some real-time meetings. I expect probably in the first couple weeks I'll schedule one, and we'll have a chance to ask questions. But again, the feedback that I'm giving you in general, if you were in the 610 course, your presentations were very good, and you should be, each and every one of you should be proud of what you've done in that course. I intend to give each of you more individual feedback, but because I had 2 back-to-back courses and I'm working with some doctoral students, it's been a busy few weeks for me. So I will get you that. And then we have another thing that's important for you. You've heard me talk about this if you've taken my courses before. As an adult learner, you have to plan. You have to mark time in your calendar each week so that you can properly address what needs to be done. And I am very flexible with adult learners, but at the same time, the onus is on you. I am not going to scold people if they fall short on meeting deadlines, but you can't do everything in this course in the last few weeks. You must each week, even if you're on vacation, or even if I know it's we're moving into the summer season, even if it's busy time at work, you've got to block that time and do the things you need to do and not fall behind. So plan for that. Plan for time where you can not be distracted, where you can lock yourself in your office or in a room and actually work on your course projects and keep up to date. So I like to bring that up because, again, I'm a flexible person, a flexible instructor, and there's a lot of fluid, I guess there's a lot of flexibility in terms of if you run into a problem and you need a few extra days, or if something happens. But at the same time, I haven't had much success working with people who just put everything off to the second half of the course. It just hasn't worked, and it has to be special circumstances for me to provide an incomplete. And I know that each of you are busy professionals and you're out there doing multitasking and that sort of thing. So that's the way I like to perceive each person in this course. And so I'm an efficiency person. I like to keep things focused on what you need to know so that you can get the things done and do all the other things that you have going on in your life. And the last thing I want to see anyone become is stressed out. So that's why I think instead of me going through 30 minutes of reading to you the syllabus, reading to you all the assignments, I want you to go and read them and then post questions so I can make things clear for you. And, this is a way that we can all kind of be in the learning mode, getting the most out of what we're putting our efforts in, and we're going to weed away, trim away all the fluff that gets in the way and focus so we can be efficient when we do spend time doing our coursework. We're not wasting time. We're focused. We know what we need to do. We know what the next step is, and we get there and we get that done. And a lot of times I have my doctoral students asking me for a meeting, and I always say, yeah, sure, let's meet. But before we meet, send me an email about what we're going to meet about, and be very brief but concise about what the issues are. And then once I read that, we'll set up a meeting. And I get these emails and I respond to them, and guess what? Oftentimes my response is enough for the student, whereas the meeting becomes irrelevant and unneeded. So that's something you ought to think about, especially if you're taking some classes that are regular brick and mortar classes. Do you really need to drive in and go to your professor's office hours to ask a question when you can send an email? Now, sure, you want to meet your professor and have interactions with them and hear their voice and talk to them, and that's perfectly understandable. But in terms of efficiency, let's do what we can to be efficient, and by the end of this term, it's 12 weeks goes by fast, and for some of you, you're using vacation time because it's summer. So let's get through this course in a way that's efficient, but also in a way that really gives you the skills, the understandings, and the proficiencies that you can put into work in your career, in your life, so that you can reap the benefits of this education that you're paying for now. And when I decided to get my doctorate, my thought was, I'm going to go back and get a doctorate. I'm going to get one in something that's going to enhance what I do in my life and in my career. And that's why I chose Instructional Design and Technology. It was a sub-part of a curriculum and instruction program at West Virginia University, and I got to work with Dr. Michael Reed, who has since passed away, but he was an inspiration to so many people in our field, and his name comes up all the time. He was chair of the IDT department at NYU when he retired and passed away a few years after retiring. Anyway, so thank you for being in this course, and if you have any questions, we have a Got Questions forum on Blue Quill right at the top, and that's where to post them. And you'll get an email from me when we set up our first live real meeting in Zoom. And I look forward to working with you this term. Bye-bye.